This is a tutorial for Space Base on Board Game Arena. Space Base is a great game where you're building a fleet of ships that all give you resources or bonuses based on dice rolls, whether it's your own dice rolls or your opponent's dice rolls. And you continue to build up that fleet and get more and more bonuses until you get 40 victory points, these little rocket ships. So you're going to be tracking three different things. First is the rocket ships. Again, the first one to 40 wins. The gold is your money. That's how you buy new cards. And then the income, which is the little planet icon here that you'll see on some of these cards, that is the basically the lowest income you can have at the start of a turn. So if you spend more money than the income level, then your money gets brought back up to that income level. So if my income level is 10 and I had 15 gold for a turn and I spent all 15 gold, my gold would start back at 10 right after my turn was over and can continue to increase from there. So each of these cards have four different important aspects of them. And in BGA, it does a nice thing where it lists everything out on the side as you hover over them. But just to kind of get you a sense of the symbology and whatnot, on the top left of each card is the cost of that card. On the top right is the place on your board where that card will go, which means the dice roll on which it will be triggered, in this case a 5. And those dice rolls can be either individual dice or combined dice. So a 5 and a 1, you could trigger the 5, or if it's a 2 and a 3, you could trigger the 5. The blue area is what triggers when you roll the dice on your turn, and the red area, when it's been flipped, and you'll see how that works in a minute, that's what triggers when it's on somebody else's roll. So in this case, it costs 2, it triggers on the 5, it gives me 1 victory point if it triggers on my turn, and if it triggers on another person's turn and I have it in that spot, then it gives me 1 gold for that. And you can stack those up to where you're triggering many things on an individual's on other people's turns when those trigger. And we'll see how that works later too. So they're very basic resources, like just giving you gold, giving you income, like increasing that income value, or giving you victory points. But there are also a lot of different special powers here. And so we'll look at a few of those that are listed down here. You can see that these are the different types of cards that you can purchase. These are level 1, they're the cheapest. You can see 5, 4, 2, 3. These are level 2, they're a little bit better, but they're more expensive, 8, 9, 10. And these are the most expensive level 3 cards, 13, 12, 14, that kind of thing. So let's look at some of these level 1 cards. So we have some of the basics with just raw values of things. In this case, we have some cards that have these arrows on them. And that means if this triggers, instead of since this is on 11, this will be on 11. If you trigger the 11, then you can say, no, I don't want to use it on the 11. I want to use it on the 10 to the left or on the 12 to the right. So when this triggers, you can say, okay, instead of this event triggering, I want to evaluate one of the bonuses on the left or the right. In this case, it's a bit of a combo. You get 1 coin and you can trigger the thing that's on the right. So that's what those arrows mean. And then there will some that just are just straight bonuses. Like in this case, if I rolled this 10 on my turn, I could claim 2 level 2 cards. That means I could just have them without paying for them as part of my turn. Right? And then you have several cards that have these little boxes around them. Here's one as well. Here's one too, and the boxes look a little different, right? So the way that boxes work, and this is kind of the most complicated part of this game, really. When this triggers, and you see that it's blue, so it triggers on your turn. If you roll a 4 on your turn, then you put a charge there. A charge in the physical game is just a little cube. That's what it says in the roll over there, the tooltip. So you would put a cube on there. That doesn't mean you get to use this benefit yet, but now that it has a cube on it, then you can use it either when it's your turn, like in this case, when it's somebody else's turn, or when it's your turn, like in this case, or when it's either um, in your case or in someone else's case. So this one's a bit special. Basically, this says you have that charge there. Now, either on someone else's roll or on your own roll, if you want to use up that charge and you just take it off, and now you've used that up, it's kind of it's a dispensable thing, and then you'd have to recharge it to use it again. But this would allow you to take the total of the sum of the dice that have been rolled and increase it by 1 or 2. So if I have this charge on there and someone else rolls a 6 and all my good stuff is on the 7, I could say, ooh, I want to use this charge and increase that 6 by 1 to make it 7. You have to use it for both dice. That's why the 2 dice are here. Sometimes it could be just 1 dice that you can change. But in this case, you can change it to 7 or 8 if it was a 6 that was rolled. Or if it was on your turn and you rolled a 6, but you really wanted that 7, you can take off that charge, add 1 or 2 to the combined dice roll. Now you see sometimes these boxes will be separated and sometimes they'll be connected. And so in this case, you see those are connected. Basically, when they're connected like this, that means you have to fill all of those before you can do the action. So this one lets you swap your 1 and your 12 sector cards. Now, why would you want to do that? Well, a lot of those 12 sector cards, because they're less likely to come up in a roll, are much more valuable. And if you could swap it to your 1s, which come up a lot more often because you can just take a single die instead of a combined die, then all of a sudden those valuable 12 value cards are now in the 1 spot for you. Also, you can see that these dots here, that means that if you have 3 players, you have to fill this one, or if you have 2 players, you have to fill this one. If you only have 4 players, you only have to do these 2. And so there's some different requirements depending on the number of players that exist. Also, notice the 6 at the top. This means you just get it when you roll that 9. You get that 6, plus you get to add the charge. If the 6 was part of this blue spot here, that would mean you would only get that 6 money when you did this action and used up those charges. And again, with all of these, if you fill it up, you can use it again. In this case, you probably would just use it once, but maybe you would want to use it multiple times. I'm not going to go through every single card, but those are the basic ideas. There are also these cards that you can buy. These are outposts. And what they do is they're very expensive, you can see. They give you a one-time bonus for that, or one-time point value to your space there, but then it kind of locks that space. You can still get points for that space, for that number on other people's turn, but you can't get points on it for your turn. And so these are usually saved for the end game. They're a really good way to, you'll probably really built up your income and your ability to create money, and so you want to buy these to just get those points to get to 40 as quickly as possible. All right, so let's go through the play of the game. Everybody will start off with 5 money, and then they draw a card and they pay for it. It's just kind of gives you a starting card. And so you'll confirm your starting card. Yeah, sorry. Okay, now notice what happened. It was the 5, so it went to my 5 spot, and now when I roll a 5, I get a 1 victory point. But the one that was there flipped over and went up here. And so now if my opponents roll a 5, and again it could be a combined 5 or a 5 and another number, like a 5 and a 2, then I would get that point. Also, if you do split the dice, you can use both of them, right? So if somebody rolled a 5 and a 2, and I had something, or if I rolled a 5 and a 2, I could use it here and here. So I could get 1 victory point and 1 gold instead of just the 3 gold for the 7, the combined value. So I have to make that decision. And so the game goes through where people will roll a number. In this case, this person rolled 11. Now I don't have anything on the 11 trigger, or or the 6 trigger, but I do have something on the 5, so it lets me activate that sector. And I can click 5. This tutorial isn't liking the way I'm doing this, but basically I get 1 gold. I already had 3, so now I have 4 there, you can see. And those can start building up during other people's turns. Alright, I'm going to skip ahead a bit. Alright, here's my turn. I rolled a 1 and a 5, so I could either do the 1 and the 5 sector, which gives me a victory point and a coin, or I could do the 6 sector, which is only a coin. So obviously I'm going to do the 1 and the 5 and get both of those things. And so when it's your turn, you activate your cards and then you buy a new card if you'd like to. You can buy 1 card per turn. I would recommend buying it as often as you can. The only time you wouldn't want to buy is if you maybe want to really save up that gold for something bigger, especially towards the end of the game. But the more you buy it, the more you're going to build up that engine and trigger more and more bonuses and things on other people's turns. And so in this case, I bought this 9 card, which has the arrow thing. And now if anybody else rolls a 9, I get a 3 coins. And I can activate that. So this next person, they roll a 4 and a 1, which together makes a 5, and I can activate my 5 sector. All right, we're going to skip way ahead now. Oh, but before we do, I wanted to point out an important part of the BGA implementation, especially if you're doing turn-based, and that is this section right over here. They've added some nice little features here that basically say if you're not, because after every roll, that roll could affect you in some way. Sometimes it won't. Sometimes people will roll stuff that you don't have anything for, especially at the beginning, but oftentimes it does. And so you can tell it to say, hey, if there's nothing there, then turn on this auto confirm. And so basically that means if somebody rolls something that you don't have, you just confirm and say, okay, that's fine. If, however, you do have something that you can activate, this option says, well, if there's only one thing you can activate, like in this case, I don't have a 4 or a 1, but I do have the 5, so it's the only choice I have, then just go ahead. So you can say, hey, if you only have one option, just do it. And so I set both that and that just to make it speed up. Now, if there are multiple options, it does have this option that says use the better option. I don't know exactly how it evaluates better, so I didn't try to using that. You're welcome to try to use that, which is going to even make it so you have to deal with the turns even less and less. But if you don't do this, if you keep these both off, then you're going to have to come back and make a decision on every single person's turn. And often those turns are going to be, or often those decisions are going to be very simple, just saying confirm, or obviously, yes, I'm going to do the 5. So when you're doing turn-based, this is, even when you're doing real-time, this was helpful to me. But these options will help speed the game up quite a bit. Especially as we do turn-based versions of them. Okay, this is a late game, pretty late in the game. Again, my turn. You can see I'm not doing too great. I get fairly crushed by these people, but I have 18 points. I have 8 income, 14 gold, and then other people have their own. So this person's not really doing any income, but they're still able to get a lot of money and buy a lot of cards. But you can see here I've stacked up in several of these places the things that trigger on other people's turns, and there is certainly the strategy of trying to spread out and have something on every card, and there's also the strategy of really focusing on certain ones to get you a lot of great things when those specifically trigger. Like here, if somebody else rolls a 9, I'm in good shape because I get 9 gold, plus I get to trigger either this one, which gives me 4 gold and an income, or this one. I would obviously do this one. You could also even have arrows that point back and forth to each other. You can't do an infinite loop, but each one would trigger. So if I had an arrow over here, this one would trigger this, and this one would trigger that. So you can really kind of get some bonuses that way. And you can see other people. So this person, he's got some triggers or some charges on his. Really built up. This person right here, he's got those 2 that are pointing to each other, right? And so you've got a little bit of a a nice combo here that can get him, up to like 10 points, and just if he rolls the right number. And then you can see some people have taken these outposts, which again they lock the number. So if you rolled a 7 on your turn, you wouldn't really get anything for it. You'd probably want to use like the 5 and 2 instead. But on other people's turn, you still trigger these. And so if you've built up a high enough one of these, then it's fine to use up the space with one of these to get those 9 points or 5 points. I did it once, and yeah, that was part of my problem. I had some good money turns that I just didn't take advantage of by buying these, and then by the time it was my turn, they were gone already. So yeah, this just keeps continuing on until somebody hits 40, and then the round ends, and the and then the game is over, and whoever has the most points wins. You can go beyond 40 points to make sure, to see who actually ends up winning. But so as you can see, these people are getting a lot of. Now this one was great for me. It was 2-1, so I got to trigger this one twice and get 4 coins and 2 points there. So that one was a good roll that they did for me. I think we go through just a few more turns here. Let me go to the end of the game. All right, you can see this is the end of the game. It told me on top that there was a message that said, hey, this is the last round because Karen here went to 44. And since I was the last player and Centaur here was the starting player, it just finishes the round and they don't get any turns either. I can't really do much with that double one that I triggered because it was, yeah, that was like the worst roll I could have gotten on that last one because I can't do either of those things. I can do the 2, but it's just adding a charge, and I wouldn't get a full, unless I had 2 of those things, I wouldn't get that full 20 from it. So this one turned out to be pretty lopsided against me. I got last place out of these 4, but you can see how these build up, and yeah, it's really fun to build those combos up and see those trigger on other people's turns or on your own turn. There's a lot of different strategies. There's even cards in there that just are hard to get but give you really big bonuses. So I hope that helps.